Hey everyone, and welcome to week 3 of my reading 30 graphic novels in 30 days reading challenge. We are now officially in the 3rd week of this reading challenge. As you saw from my last reading vlog, I was up to 17 comics read. It's currently the 19th. I was meant to read something over the weekend and then just didn't because I was really busy. I ended up doing a whole lot of things, including handing a hose to a 5-year-old and thinking that that was a good idea. It really was not, but there we go. And then also I spent Sunday in the cinema watching Deadpool and Wolverine for the literal 7th time, and I have no regrets because I absolutely adore this movie and it's the most I've ever seen a movie in the cinema, and I have no regrets, like I said. And then also watching Alien Romulus, which brings me actually onto what I'm going to be reading today, because what I'm going to be reading today on my tablet is 2 Alien comics, because they are available on Marvel Unlimited, because apparently Marvel publishes Alien and Predator comics. I've never read any of the Alien comics before, but seeing as I've now watched Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien from 1979, and then also Alien Romulus, I decided why not also read some Alien comics as well. So that is what I'm going to be doing today. And then for the rest of the week, I'm going to be going through the comics that I have borrowed from the library, because I've got several of those, including my first ever Junji Ito book. So very excited about that. But for now, we're going to start right off with the Alien comics. So let's get reading. I'm not going to show you too many panels or anything else in this, because there is a lot of blood and gore and guns and all of this kind of thing, and I don't want to trigger anybody. But I do want to say I really love how the xenomorph here is drawn. It's really detailed and it looks really sort of film accurate, which I knew it was going to be anyway, but I just really like how the xenomorph here is drawn. As for the storyline, this is your standard Alien story, only this time we are on a research vessel and we're following a guy who has recently retired from being the head of security. He dealt with xenomorphs about 40 years ago now, or 20 years ago, a while ago anyway, a couple of decades ago, and survived, but he's still very much haunted by this. He's seeing a therapist for this and things like this, and his son has come along and snuck onto the station he used to work at to try and shut it down, and now there's been a massive outbreak of all of these xenomorphs and stuff because they were experimenting on them on this station, and this guy's had to go back up to the station again to try and save his son, and also try and get the alpha specimen as well for Weyland-Yutani, which is the big bad company of this entire series, or this entire sort of franchise. So it's quite fun so far. I wouldn't say it's for anybody who doesn't know anything about Alien. This is definitely not a good starting point. You definitely want to go back, watch Prometheus, watch Alien Covenant, watch which I know is an unpopular opinion, but I really enjoy those movies, so I don't care. Also, obviously the original Alien movie, this kind of thing. Then you could probably read this, but definitely not for anyone who has not watched any Alien whatsoever. I love how they're showing static here among the like communicators and stuff, and how it's slightly sort of slashed out. I really love that that's how they're communicating, that it's slightly sort of not pixelated. What's the word I'm looking for? I just said it and it's gone. What word am I looking for? Static. It looks a bit staticky, and I just really love when comics do stuff like this. It's so inventive, so clever, and such a sort of simple way to communicate a difference in speech or what people are hearing and things like this, without having to sort of put a little box there explaining it or anything. I love this. I think it's genius. It's probably pretty standard, but I still think it's genius. And now I've finished both of those Alien comics, and these were reasonably fun. They're very much like what you would expect. They are essentially an Alien movie condensed into a graphic novel format, which is absolutely fine. I will say there is a massive trigger warning for the 2nd volume in this series though, which follows a woman who has a degenerative muscle disease that is also going to prove fatal, and for me personally, I know that can be a very triggering topic if it's not handled that well, or just thrown at me without much sort of warning or anything. So I would have liked some warning for that, so hence why I'm giving that warning here as well in case anybody needs that. But apart from that, it was still quite fun. It was exactly what you expect from an alien comic. There was a lot of xenomorphs, a lot of Weyland-Yutani company screwing people over, guns, blood, gore, death, running for your life, the horror elements, all of this kind of thing. So overall it was pretty fun. I'm giving both of them 3 stars because they were not my absolute favourite in the world, but they were generally a reasonably good read. And now that I've finished my comics for the day, I'm going on to Yellowface by R.F. Kuang because this is going to be my book for the week. As for the comics I'm going to read for the rest of the week, I've got a few on my library app that have just come through. So I've got a Junji Ito, which will be the first Junji Ito I have ever read. I've also got a couple of fantasy ones, including Squire, and then also Wind, if I remember rightly, which is by James Tinian, who I absolutely adore, so really excited for those. I then may read some Black Hammer. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm going to sort of pick and choose once I finish the library books as to what I'm going to read, but for now, because I've finished the comics, I'm going on to Yellowface, so that is my plan for the rest of the day, is just reading Yellowface. I've just started my first ever Junji Ito manga, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to read one of their works, but I only can read what's from my library at the moment in terms of manga. So anyway, I've just started it. This is a collection of short stories, and the first one I'm reading is already really creepy. So we're dealing with a young boy. He's just moved back to his hometown after being away for a few years, and there is a tradition at this like in this town where if you go to a crossroads on a foggy night and ask the first person who goes past, they will give you your fortune, essentially. And everyone keeps on running into this one guy who's really tall. He's dressed all in black. He's supposed to look quite nice, but he keeps on giving really bad fortunes, and people are starting to wind up dead at these crossroads after they've asked him their fortune. It looks like a suicide and things like this, but it's probably not going to turn out to be a suicide, and we're following this boy who is sort of wrapped up in all of this via various means and things like this, and this is really creepy, and we're getting shots like this. I'm not going to give you anything of like the bodies or anything in case that's triggering, obviously, but I just want to point out this bit here, how effective and how scary this looks and how creepy this looks, considering it's entirely in black and white. I don't exactly know who did the artwork. I will leave their name here if I can find it, but they are doing a fantastic job with literally just black and white and making this fantastically creepy. I am definitely very creeped out reading this, and I'm kind of glad I'm reading this in the middle of the day in bright sunlight, because this is already really creepy and I'm only literally a few pages in, but this is definitely working for me, and I definitely don't think at the moment this is going to be my final Junji Ito, to say the least. Turns out this is actually one massive story, over 400 pages, so this is probably going to take me the best part of the day, which I'm not really going to mind, to be honest, because I'm really enjoying this so far. I am loving the unravelling mystery of it and trying to figure out who the boy in the beautiful boy at the crossroads is, and if he's causing this, what's going on, everything else. The artwork continues also to be so effective with just black and white, because this is how they're showing a scream going across like through the air and things like this, with like the sort of speech of it coming out through the fog and things like this. I really love this. I'm loving the artwork of this, loving seeing this unfold as well. This is so good. I am really like enjoying this so much. Like I said, this is definitely not going to be my last Junji Ito. As soon as my library gets more in, I am definitely reading more of this, because this is so good so far. Tell a lie again, this is actually a series of short stories. It's just that the short stories are longer than I was expecting. So we've just had another one that's about a family where the parents have died and they're trying to call them up again as a seance and things like this. And this one didn't work for me as well. I wasn't really sort of caring about any of the characters at all, or anything else. It was still creepy, it was still weird, but it didn't quite work for me as well as the first one did. And now I'm on to another one called The Mansion of Phantom Pain, so we'll see what that one looks like. By the way, I didn't like take any screenshots or anything of that second story, because there was just a lot of weird creepy stuff in there and a lot of the panels, and I just didn't really want to show that, like I said, in case anybody's triggered or anything and doesn't want to see like dead bodies or like arson, fire, anything like that. Didn't want to show it just in case. So Anyway, moving on to the Mansion of Phantom Pain. If there is anything I can show or comment about, I will, but we shall see. The Rib Woman was definitely creepy. That was definitely sort of back up again in terms of like my enjoyment. I did very much enjoy that one. It was very sort of slightly body horror and things like this, which I found I quite enjoy. But the next one's called Memories of Real Poop. And I'm like, I don't know what this is gonna like contain, and the mind is boggling. I'm a little bit like, I'm scared. I don't know if I want to read this, but I'm going to. But I'm just a little bit like, what the hell is this one going to entail? Like, we've had beautiful boys in the mist. We've had a family who's lost their parents and are doing seances and weird stuff like that. We've had the Rib Woman, and now Memories of Real Poop. This is going to be interesting. Definitely interesting, I think. I've just finished it. It was only 2 pages long, and it was just about a boy who bought fake poop as a prank and then pranked people with it, and I was a little bit like, why is this in a spooky horror anthology? I'm very confused. I'm not entirely sure what that was all about, and like literally I've got no idea what that was all about, but there we go. Yeah, that was just weird, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, but overall though, I have now just finished Love Sickness by Junji Ito, and I really enjoyed this on the whole. It was definitely creepy, definitely spooky for a good like 99% of the stories. I really like the artwork in here as well, because it did a really good job of making everything look really creepy and stuff, which is exactly what you want from this type of thing. And the stories were also really creepy for the most part, apart from that last one. They all worked for me on various different levels. I will say the family one didn't work for me as well as, say, the Rib Woman and the beautiful boy in the like in the fog. That those two really worked for me. The family one worked for me, but not as well, and then the poop one just kind of not entirely sure why that one was there. But overall, this was a really good read. This is definitely not going to be my last Junji Ito. I'm definitely going to be requesting more of their stuff from the library if I can get hold of it. And obviously if they can get hold of it as well. And overall, I think I'm going to be giving this 4 stars. And now that I've finished that, I'm going back to Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, because I am really enjoying this. I'm not usually like a thriller reader or a contemporary reader at all, but this is really working for me in a lot of ways. The main character has also just presumably seen possibly the ghost of her dead friend, who she's just plagiarized off of and sort of just stolen her work after she died, so that's quite interesting. I'm really excited to see where that's going to go, but I'm generally enjoying the look into publishing. I'm also loving the commentary on white privilege and things like this as well. This is definitely really enjoyable so far, and I'm really excited to continue on with it. So that is my plan for the rest of the day, is to get more of Yellowface read. It's now Wednesday. I have read more of Yellowface, and I'm still really enjoying this. I'm loving the commentary it's having around white privilege, racism, microaggressions, all of this kind of thing. The publishing industry as well, despite the fact that I don't know that much about the publishing industry. It's something I'm very interested in, because one day I would like to be a published author myself. But I'm loving all the commentary it's having around these things, and seeing our main character also just dig that hole further and further, not seeing what she's doing wrong and everything else. Is making me cringe in the best way. I'm just sat there going, you can't do that, you know, and I'm just like, you're not seeing the mistakes you're making here. It's gonna like bite you in the arse, and she's just not seeing it. So I'm enjoying that in a sort of weird way, in the sense that I'm sitting here cringing, because I'm like, this is gonna backfire on you, but you're not seeing it, essentially. And I'm enjoying it in that sense, and I'm also just enjoying the commentary it's having around this and everything else. I'm really enjoying it, and quite frankly, I'm just not articulate enough to explain my thoughts on this book, to be honest, further than saying I am really enjoying it. I also started Interview with a Vampire season 2 last night as well, which I'm really excited about, because I have been meaning to watch this for a really long time and just haven't been able to until the 1st of August actually, because it wasn't available in the UK, so I was just seeing spoilers everywhere. So it's nice that I'm now finally watching it. I'm up to episode 3 right now, and I'm just loving being back in the world again and being like seeing new parts of Interview with the Vampire, because I've never read the book or anything else. I haven't seen the movie either, so all of this is completely brand new to me. I do know a few bits because obviously, like I said, I've seen spoilers and stuff, but It's mainly been sort of reasonably new to me, and I've been really enjoying it, and it helped pass the time while I did the ironing last night. Anyway, that was not the point of this video. This video is supposed to be all about reading comics, and I've got 2 left on my library holds. I've got a few others that are also that I'm waiting for. It just depends on when other people read them and give them back to the library, so I'm not going to worry about those right now because I can't physically do anything with those apart from wait for them. But I do have 2 currently in my holds. The first one is Squire by Nadia Shamas. I apologise right now if I've mispronounced that. And then also Wind by James Tynion. And I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards James Tynion in a lot of ways because I know that I really like his work, or at least I like his horror work. I've never read some of his more fantasy stuff, but I think I am going to read Squire first because I know I've had this one on my wish list for a really long time, and it's about time I read it. So I think we're going to start with Squire. I cannot remember what this one's about. I cannot actually remember what either of these are about. I just know that they are fantasies, and that's about it. So I'm going into these ones completely without knowledge of anything, so that's exciting. But I think I am going to read Squire first. I think I'm going to read that one first because that one's been on my wish list for longer than Wind, so I think that's what I'm going to do now. So Squire itself is a story about a young girl who is part of a recently conquered people and now wants to join the Knights of the Conquerors because she's heard her whole life how amazing these knights are and things like this, and it will mean she'll get citizenship so she doesn't have to go through extra checkpoints and things like this to just move around her own country and things like this, which is remarkably reminiscent of what's going on at the moment in Palestine and everything else. I do have links down below to information, places you can donate to, all of that kind of thing down below to check out if you want to, and you really should because this is a very important thing to talk about and donate to and everything else, so all of that will be linked down below. But also what I wanted to say is you get panels like this where they're learning about military strategy and they're just offhandedly saying, oh, that her people are like a cowardly lot and things like this, and you've got bits talking about them having to go through checkpoints and the fact that they aren't citizens of this newly conquered land that was originally their land, all of this kind of thing, and you just see these microaggressions and things like this throughout here already, and I'm literally only 103 pages in and I'm just like, this is going so well in that subtle sort of, you can see how this is happening, and the racism and the imperialism and all of this kind of thing, you can see it happening and unfolding throughout here, and I'm just like, this was definitely a perfectly timed thing to read right now because of everything going on at the moment and things like this. So definitely enjoying this, but at the same time the real world sort of parallels are quite frankly horrifying in a lot of ways and also quite timely. So just want to point that out and just say that that is what this song is about, and we are talking about imperialism, colonialism, all of this kind of thing as well in this comic, but in a sort of more kid friendly kind of way. So maybe this will be good to read with kids, I don't know yet, I'm still reading, but it is definitely a sort of middle grade look into imperialism and this kind of thing without kind of holding back in a lot of ways. I've now just finished Squire, and that was a really good look into imperialism, colonialism, and basically the dehumanization of a people and things like this, and like fighting against that and unlearning these things, all of this kind of thing. And I think it's a really good one to read maybe with people about 12 and older, I think. Maybe not younger than that, but around that sort of age, I'd say it's a really good one to maybe read with kids to sort of open that conversation about all of these types of topics and things like this, because it does explain it really well through the like story and things like this. I think it's pretty good in that sense. I will say that the ending was a little bit rushed and happened a little bit too quickly. I do wish maybe there'd been maybe 10-20 more pages to fully explore that, but that's just my personal opinion. Everything else is absolutely brilliant. The artwork is brilliant. The commentary it's having about these topics is absolutely brilliant. The way it's woven in is really well done, things like this, and it's definitely a really, really important topic. So overall, I did really enjoy this one. I do think it's a good thing to read, especially with younger readers, to explore more of that imperialism, microaggressions and everything else I just said about. And I'm going to be giving it 4 stars. Now I'm going to go off to hoover and dust my room, and then I'm going to be trying to read more of Yellowface as well today. And I will come back tomorrow when I am reading Wind. I've now hoovered and dusted my room. I've also written my Iron Man starting points blog, which I've been meaning to do for several months now, to be honest. I'm glad I've now written that one. I am still admittedly, like, putting off writing about Krakoa, I won't lie, because while I love Krakoa, the reading orders are ridiculous. There is just so much of it in so many different comics and things like this that I'm just putting it off because I know it took me all day last time to do it. I may start doing research in the evening though, just to kind of like speed it up a little bit, but I've been quite frankly completely and utterly consumed by Interview with a Vampire and just watching that. I'm on to series 2 right now. Last night I finished episode 5, I think it was, well, like Daniel and Louis have that big chat about what happened in the 70s and stuff. I won't say further than that in case people haven't seen it, but it is just so good. I am loving this series so much, so I've been really, really enjoying that, wanting to really pay attention to that, so I haven't been doing any research, but I'm hopefully going to finish the show tonight, so then maybe over the weekend and maybe over the bank holiday I'll start researching, maybe. I may do it then, I don't know. Anyway, I have also read a bit more of Yellowface. I'm now on to chapter 19 and I am still really enjoying this and watching the downfall of our main character as she's essentially just digging the hole further and further and further and further, and I'm like, how are you doing this? How are you managing this? You, like, at every turn you make the wrong decision, and I'm just really enjoying that, quite frankly, because she's honestly just an awful human being in a lot of ways, so I'm enjoying the downfall. I'm really, really enjoying that at the moment. But anyway, I need to read another comic, and I've also got to film 2 videos today. So I'm going to read the comic first, and then I'm going to do the 2 videos after lunch, I think. And the comic I'm going to be reading is Wind by James Tynion, and this is the first sort of fantasy I've read from James Tynion. I've mostly read his, well, actually I've exclusively read his horror work before now, so I'm interested to see what he does outside of horror, because I'm like 90% sure that this is a YA fantasy, so that's going to be quite an interesting new thing from him for me, so I'm really, really excited to read that. And then after lunch I've got film 2 videos, so I'm going to get on and read this comic, tell you what I think about it, and then this afternoon it's all about filming some videos. So it turns out this is actually quite similar to yesterday's comic in the sense that we are in a fantasy world that's very, very xenophobic, only in this one it's not colonial power that's doing it, it is the people in charge anyway, like the king and everybody else, who are very, very anti-magic people and people who've got magic in their blood. And essentially when Wind, before Wind was born, there was a huge mass, basically cull of magic people in the land and things like this, and then he was sort of given up by his parents because he's got pointy ears and stuff, and he's been raised as a human, hiding his ears and things like this. But then like the king's about to die, and he's saying to his son, you must keep on with the like anti-magic laws and all the rest of it to keep us safe and everything else. And the son's like, but why? Because I don't really mind magic people or anything else. They've never seemed to done anything to anybody and this kind of thing. And we are following him, and then also Wind, and Wind himself has now grown up, and he is his mother figure is saying, we're going to send you off to the north where it's safer, and he's like, I don't want to go because my whole life is here and everything else. And now he's having this conversation with his sister, talking about the fact that he can hear all of these bigoted things that everybody's saying around him about magic people, not realising that he is a magic person, because if they did, they would potentially kill him on sight and things like this. So it's a very similar comic in the sense of dealing with xenophobia and things like this, which I'm finding quite interesting. I love it when these things are explored throughout like fantasy worlds and things like this, I think is a great way, especially for younger readers, to explore that type of thing and things like this. So that's quite interesting, and I'm really loving the artwork in this as well, and just generally the storyline is really working for me so far. Even though there is a ton of xenophobia and xenophobic comments and actions and things like this throughout this, there is no homophobia. I will say the main character of Wind is queer, and there is no comments on that of in a negative fashion or anything else. Queerness is just accepted in this world. So while there is a lot of bigotry and stuff, I will say there isn't any to do with homophobia so far. And now I have just finished Wind, and I really enjoyed this actually. I'm going to be continuing on with the series because it turns out it's actually a series, which I didn't realise, but this was a really good first volume. I really like the world of this, I really like the characters and the journey they're starting to go on. Obviously there is a lot of bigotry and things like this, but that is the main point of this, and I really liked how it handled that and how it handled that metaphor and things. I definitely think this is another one like Squire Yesterday, which is a really good one to read with younger readers to start that conversation around bigotry and how that is insidious and how it sort of grows and changes over time and how it affects people, all of this kind of thing. It's definitely a good one to read with younger readers and older readers actually as well, to start those conversations and things like this. I think it's really, really well done. I really like the artwork, the characters, the world and everything else. Like I said, I'm giving it 4 stars, and now I'm going to be requesting the rest of the series on the library because I really, really like this one. James Tynion did not let me down once again. And now that I've read that, I think for the rest of the day I'm going to read a little bit more of Yellowface because I don't have time to actually film anything right now before I've got to go and get lunch, but I do have time to read a little bit, and then this afternoon it's all about actually getting some filming done because it is finally cool enough, because England has been going through a bit of a heat wave for the last few weeks now, and it's just been too hot to film in my room. But I'm really, really excited to be going back up into my room again and get some filming done up there, because I much prefer that video background when I'm filming, like my sit down videos and things. So really excited to actually finally go upstairs and film something again while it's actually cool enough and I'm not going to sort of risk myself getting heat stroke like filming upstairs. So very excited for that. But right now I'm going to read a little bit more of Yellowface before then and have some lunch, and then obviously go off and get some filming done. So it's now Friday. I've just finished editing my video for Friday, and I've just had 2 packages arrive that I want to show you. The first one is a tour t-shirt I've just ordered for Carrie Hope Fletcher because she's going on tour next month with her Love Letters tour. If you don't know who Carrie Hope Fletcher is, she is a musical theatre actress and vlogger and author and all of this kind of thing, and I absolutely love her. I've been following her since the beginning of her channel. She is admittedly also, I will say, Tom Fletcher of McFly's younger sister, which is how I knew about her and everything else. But I'm going to her tour next month and I wanted to get one of the t-shirts ready, so that is what this is. I'm going to quickly open it and show you on camera. Why is it double bagged? No need for it to be double bagged, but okay. Right, I can open this as well. There we go. So it looks like this. So it's got Carrie's name on the front and Love Letters because that's the tour name, and then all of the dates on the back. So I love that. So I got the baggier size as well because I like a baggier t-shirt, to be honest, and yeah, this is going to look really good. I absolutely love this one. Definitely going to be wearing that for the tour date. And then we have this month's Waypoint Books Full Moon subscription box. If you do not know what Waypoint Books Full Moon subscription box is essentially a monthly subscription service where you are sent 2 books, one of which is one you pick out of a list of 3, and the other one is a complete surprise, and both of them are entirely based around your tastes as a reader. And Hannah, who runs this, is psychic. I swear, she is psychic. The amount of books she has given me, and I have absolutely loved them, and I've either never heard of them before or was a bit hesitant to go into them, was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like that, and then I ended up loving it. I don't know how she does it, but she keeps on doing it. She is psychic. So let's see what she's got me this month. Right. I was hoping this was going to arrive today because I know there's a comic in there, because I specifically picked this one, and as you can see, they're always wonderfully wrapped and everything else. So and I know exactly what this is. This is the Dead Lucky Volume 2. Yes, this is Dead Lucky Volume 2. So this is part of the Massive Verse, which is basically Image Comics' answer to the Marvel Universe and things like this. It is a superhero universe, and I've been really enjoying these so far. I've already read, obviously, Pretty Lucky, no, Dead Lucky, sorry. I keep on wanting to call it Pretty Lucky. It is Dead Lucky, but Dead Lucky Volume 1, and really enjoyed it. And then also I've read Radiant Black, the first 2 volumes, and quite enjoyed those as well. So really excited to read this. And I mean, look at the cover. It's gorgeous. And then the inside artwork, without trying to give away too many spoilers for myself, looks like... I'm trying to find a good bit. I'm just going to show you a bit. Looks like this on the inside, so very excited about that. Now, let's see what my book is. Oh! Okay, let's have a look. It is a Chloe Gong Immortal Longings. Okay then, this one. 5 years ago, Princess Kala vowed to tear down Sanair's a tyrannical monarchy. First she killed her parents, now her sights are set on her uncle, the remaining reclusive king. The only way to reach him is to enter his deadly games and be crowned the winner by his hand. Okay then. That sounds good to me. And then it carries on to say Anton Masuka's childhood love lies in a coma, and he's deep in debt trying to keep her alive. His last chance is her winning the games. When the two form an uneasy alliance, victory is soon within their reach. But as their mutual attraction proves increasingly undeniable, Calla must decide what she's playing for, her lover or her kingdom. Huh. Right, a fiery collision of power play, spilled blood and romance amidst a set of deadly games. And someone's called it brutal. I've heard of this one. Haven't, like, sort of had it on my radar properly, but this sounds really good. Right, this is giving me kind of Hunger Games vibes with, like, the romance and having to work together in a set of deadly games, all of this kind of thing. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Cannot wait to read this one, so... These are the 2 picks Hannah got me. I will be putting this on a TBR soon. And I think I'll read Dead Lucky in a minute because I need a comic for today. And actually I need a couple of comics for today because we're heading into the weekend and I'm not going to have time to read. So I was actually struggling to figure out what I was going to read. So this came at perfect timing. I'm going to be reading this later. And this one I'll be reading... at some point soon, actually, because I've got a few piling up now that I need to read. So I'm probably going to do a sort of big catch-up soon. So... very excited for that. Thank you, Hannah, for these, because this sounds really good and really interesting. Cannot wait to read these. I figured I should probably finish my book before I actually start any other comics, so I've just finished Yellowface, and my god, was this good. Like, the way Juniper just keeps on spiraling and never sees what she's doing is wrong, and how she keeps on digging that hole further and further and further and further without learning anything, without seeing what she's doing wrong, is absolutely... it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, but in the best way possible. I don't know if that made sense. I'm not articulate enough to describe this book, but all I've got is this was absolutely brilliant. This is so far out of my wheelhouse because it's a thriller, it's a contemporary, there aren't any sort of sci-fi or fantastical elements to it or anything else. My camera battery's now running out. But because it doesn't have the usual things I usually read, I was a little bit nervous going into this, but I was hooked so much, and I would have read this so much quicker if I didn't have a really busy week and obviously a graphic novel reading challenge to get through, which nearly smacked me in the face. But anyway, I loved this so much. This is a 5-star read. This was incredible. R.F. Kuang is an incredible writer. I've read this one, I've read Babel, and I really enjoyed both of them, and now I am desperate to get to the Poppy War. I just don't own them yet, so that is going to be the next thing going on my wish list. I'm definitely got to read the Poppy War because these, incredible, absolutely incredible, 5 stars, just brilliant. I am not articulate enough to describe how much I enjoyed this book. And now I kind of want to read some spooky things because I just finished Interview with a Vampire last night, and I'm now, and everything's starting to go a bit darker earlier, and it was raining yesterday and all the rest of it, and I was like, oh, spooky series and like spooky season and stuff, but instead I'm going to read next The Dead Lucky Volume 2 because it has literally just arrived, and what better time to read this than now. And then I think after I've read The Dead Lucky, I may also read some Dead Boy Detectives because we're heading into a bank holiday weekend, which means it's a 3-day weekend. I'm not going to have time to read for most of that, so I want to get ahead. So I think I may read some Dead Boy Detectives to kind of deal with that spooky feeling that I want, but I shall see after I've read Dead Lucky, which I'm going to do after lunch. So I'm going to go get lunch and then I'm going to go read that. But final thoughts on Yellowface is 5 stars. Incredible book. I loved it. Like an absolute prat, I've completely forgot until just now that the latest Skullduggery podcast, Haunted House on Hollow Hill, came out today. So I've just listened to that and I'm still really enjoying this. I do love the murder mystery aspect of it. I will say I am going to have to read the physical book when all of this is out to like fully realise what's happened, because I'm not that good at following murder mysteries, especially in audio format, but I am still absolutely loving this. I will say that I've got a very clear idea in my head as to what Skullduggery sounds like, and the voice actor doesn't match with that, and this is entirely a me thing. I know it's entirely a me thing. It is not the voice actor's fault whatsoever, it's me, but I am sat there going, that's not how Skullduggery sounds in my head, because the actor voicing him sounds like Ardal O'Hanlon, who is an Irish actor, and he's doing a fantastic job, don't get me wrong, but that is not how I imagine Skullduggery's voice in my head. I will say one of the others also sounds like Karen Gillan as well, and it's not Karen Gillan, but it sounds like Karen Gillan, so I'm just imagining Ardal O'Hanlon talking to Karen Gillan in my head, and it's just like, I'm going to need to read this physically because my brain is not braining at the moment, but I am still really enjoying this. I am really liking how this is all going and everything else, and unraveling the murder mystery and just seeing all of, well, listening to, I should say, not seeing, but all of the Skullduggery banter and all the rest of it. I am loving being back in this world again. It's bringing me great amounts of joy, but now that I have finished that, I'm now going to read The Dead Lucky because I do need to get some comics read for today, and then if at all possible I would like to get 3 comics read today. But either way, I am going to attempt to read at least 2 today because I desperately need to, because like I said, it's a bank holiday weekend coming up, and I know I've got a few things that I'm doing over the weekend. I know I'm seeing the latest version of The Crow. They're coming out in the cinema. I know I'm going to go see that. I've got a few other things planned as well, I think, so yeah, I need to get on and actually read something because I'm not going to have time this week, like this weekend, or on Monday either. So anyway, starting with Dead Lucky, and then I'm going to go on to some Dead Boy Detectives because I'm just wanting something slightly spooky and ghosty. If I can't have vampires, and I can't have vampires right now because I don't have any vampire comics, I'm not saving until next week. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to read some superheroes, and then I'm going to read about some Dead Boy Detectives. I really love how the artwork is done on this, so you can sort of see like the electricity powers and everything. I really love how that's done. I also really like the Dead Lucky suit as well, because it kind of reminds me a lot of the original Ironheart suit. Not the one you see in the MCU, but the one you see in the Eve Ewing comics. I'll put like a picture here so you can see it, but it kind of reminds me of that with the pink and everything, and yeah, I am really enjoying this. I will say I should probably have reread the first volume like first, because I'm not gonna lie, kind of forgotten everything, but it's slowly coming back to me, which is always useful. But it's a pretty good start so far, and I just want to point out I really like how the powers are drawn and the suit itself, and just generally the artwork. This is also a very queer normalised world, so there we go. If I go around this way, as you can see, we have a female-female relationship here, and there's a few others also mentioned and dotted about as well, and I just like pointing out that whenever I'm reading something and it's a queer normalised world, because you don't get that often, and it's always worth pointing out. And that's The Dead Lucky now finished, and I really enjoyed this volume. I think this may actually be the last one in this series. I don't know. There may be more. I'm not entirely sure, but it did kind of wrap it up quite well in this one as to what's going to happen now to the characters and everything else. So I don't know if they're gonna like cross her over with other stuff within this universe or what. I will eventually find out, but I did really enjoy this volume. I like that it was still very much a queer normative storyline. I do like that it was also talking about trauma and healing from trauma, all of this kind of thing. I liked also them dealing with the villain. I will say that I do wish the villain had maybe been a little bit more explored along with Pyre. I feel like he should have been explored a little bit more as well, but I mean, they did what they could with the page count that they had, and overall I did quite enjoy this. I like the artwork of it as well, and generally just really enjoyed myself, and I'm giving it 4 stars. And now I'm going to go on to some Dead Boy Detectives, because I've been wanting to read this for a really long time now, and it's about time I did, so we're going to get on with Dead Boy Detectives. I've got 2 that I could read. I've got the Toby Lit stuff, which is a anthology of 2 volumes, which I will count as 2 separate ones, or I also have the Jill Thompson one, which is more of a manga, and that actually I think I'm going to go for the Toby Lit one, thinking about it, because the Jill Thompson one kind of spins out of Jill Thompson's other work, which is to do with Death of the Endless, and I do not have that, so I think I'm going to go with Toby Lit stuff and hope I can squeeze in both volumes. Should be able to, but maybe a bit tight today with the time I've got, but I'm going to do my best. So the Dead Boy Detectives is about 2 boys who are ghosts, and one of them was like died in the Victorian era, I think it was, and the other one died in like the sort of 50s kind of thing. It's sort of like they're about maybe 50 years apart. It was that kind of thing, you know, like one is about 100 years old now and the other one's about 50, essentially, in like human life terms. And you can like, what I really love is the real big difference you can see when they're writing up case notes. So you've got this bit here where the diary bit on the left, that is Charles, if I remember right. Is it Charles or is it Edwin? The older one. Like, it's been a while since I've seen the TV show, and the comic is not making it entirely clear, because this is kind of like jumping in, assuming you've read the comic and everything else, and I did read the original one by a author I am not going to be mentioning because of the allegations about them, but anyway, it's been a very long time since I read that comic. But anyway, the older one, Edwin, it literally says Diary of Edwin Payne on top of it. You know, I'm tired. Anyway, so you can see Edwin's bit here on the left, and it is a lot more sort of formal and things like this, whereas you've got Charles on the other side who's just gone, like the baby was out cold. And I just love this sort of big juxtaposition between the 2 of them and how like formal one of them is, whereas the other one really isn't. Things like this. I really love sort of seeing the difference between the 2 of them, so subtly done but so brilliantly at the same time. I will say this is taking me a little bit of time to adjust to it, because in this, Charles and Edwin are actually children. They're about 12 and they act like children and everything else, whereas in the TV show they're more like 17, 18. So sort of seeing them so young after being so used to seeing them like older, or older teenagers I should say, is quite like the adjustment. I will say though that this has just brought in Crystal Palace as well from the TV show as well. I knew she was from the comics, but I wasn't sure which one, so I'm glad that it's this one, and it's the same sort of thing, whereas Crystal Palace is the same age as the boys, but she can also see ghosts, so she can see them and things like this, and she's gotten caught up in their old school where both of them died, and they're trying to save her because she's about to be essentially sort of sacrificed for a demon, this kind of thing. And it is quite fun. I will say it's kind of childish in its way, because we are seeing this through the point of view of 2 12-year-olds, or 3 12-year-olds I should say, so it's a little bit childish in places, and then a little bit sort of like skipping through part of the storyline quite quickly. But it is a comic, so that does happen, and it is from the point of view of 12-year-olds, so I'm not exactly bothered about it in that sense, but it is quite fun. I am quite enjoying myself. It's not as spooky as I thought it was going to be, but I'm still getting ghosts, I'm getting demons, all of this kind of thing, so it is kind of satisfying that need I have for spooky things. But yeah, overall, so far, quite enjoyable. Taking a little bit of time to adjust, because like I said, I am used to seeing Charles and Edwin and Crystal Palace as well older than they are at the moment, but yeah, it's not too bad so far. I am quite enjoying myself. So it turns out each issue of this is also ending on a weird sort of puzzle piece, and I'm really hoping that this is actually going to lead to some sort of bigger picture or something, because otherwise I'm like, why is there a weird puzzle piece at the end of all of these? I will say as well that a lot of this is just sort of alright, I guess you could say. A lot of it is sort of going by really, really quickly, and it's sort of not really explaining itself that well. I don't know if that's just me not following the like clues properly or what. But it is going quite quickly, and things are kind of wrapping up a little bit too simply in a lot of ways. Like, I understand that this is more like a sort of older middle grade into lower YA type of thing, but it is still sort of wrapping up a little bit too sort of snappily and quickly and things like this with each story, which is a little bit annoying. Like, don't get me wrong, I am enjoying this, but I do wish that things had been a little bit more explained as I went along. And now I've just finished Dead Boy Detectives, and it did come to a picture in the end, which I did quite enjoy. I do like the fact that it all sort of came together as a nice little picture, and this whole run sort of wrapped itself up quite nicely. What I will say though is, like I said a minute ago, it was very sort of quick, and it didn't sort of make sense in some places, because I don't know if I was just missing clues or if they were just sort of kind of skipping over the clues kind of quickly or what. I also found that the like stories were sort of quite, well, over quite quickly, I should say, not very explained, but it was quite fun. If you are a fan of the Dead Boy Detectives TV show, I would say this is quite a fun one to read, just to kind of see what their comic counterparts are like with Crystal Palace and how they teamed up together in the comics, this kind of thing. But it's not anything to write home about. I wouldn't say I'll be going back into this comic anytime soon. I will be trying the Jill Thompson one at some point, because I want to see what other authors' takes are on these characters, but yeah, that wasn't my absolute favourite, so I think I'm going to be giving it 3 stars. And I think that's where I'm going to leave this vlog, because I don't really have any more time to read anything else, and also I'm running out of space on my memory card, so I need to get everything off this memory card so I can vlog next week. But in conclusion, my favourite comics of this week were Wind by James Tynion, as well as Junji Ito's Love Sickness. As for what I'm going to read next week, I know I'm going to read When I Entered the Castle, I think it's called, by Emily Carroll. I know I'm going to be reading that, and then I'm going to be kind of playing it by ear. I'm thinking maybe some more X-Men, because I have now finished Trials of X, and I've sort of gotten through the middle of a couple of really interesting storylines that I want to continue on with. I may read something else, I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm going to see if any of my library holds come through and just kind of play it by ear. But I think that's where I'm going to now leave this video, because I don't really have anything else to say. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me your favourite comic you've read recently, I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a ghost emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is going to be filled with all things X-Men if you are interested in that. Or if books are more your thing, I'll also leave a link to my bookish Etsy store down below, so you can treat yourself to something bookish today. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time, everyone, bye!